Now let's head over to our third place team in the NFC West, the Seattle Seahawks. It's kind of funny. I had back-to-back records here for the two top teams and the two lower teams, but how the schedule turned out, the Seahawks are going to buy the way that it falls. The Seahawks are going to be in third place, even though they had the same record as the Cardinals. Kind of sucks, is what it is. I don't necessarily think that these teams like the Cardinals, I share the same sentiment as like, I don't think that these teams, their record is not going to say how good that they are. And I don't necessarily think this is going to be a Sam Darnold issue. I just think they're kind of in a rock and a hard place when it comes to their schedule. So I have them at 5-12. Don has them at 8-9. Jason 8-9. Khalil and Soar had them at 7-10, and Hayden has them at 8-9 as well. Yeah. Sorry, Dana. It's just where the cards lie, you know. So even though teams gotten better on paper, you know, just where their record lied is hard for me to see. You know, just them being better this year. But look, the Seahawks came off a 10-7 record last year. They were second in the NFC NFC West division, 375 point. They scored 375 points, 22.1 per game, 18th in the NFL points against, 11th in the NFL as far as their offense is concerned. Total yards per game, 332.2, which landed them fourth. There's one statistic that I want you guys to be very, very careful of as we go through this, because it may be mentioned a couple times throughout today's show. So we have them at 7-10 as well for the ECG one, so you guys can see the record there. DVOA, defense adjusted value over average. So if I mention DVOA, it is a football statistic that measures the team's efficiency by comparing their performance at each play to the league average, while also accounting for strength of their opponent, right? So, for example, when we look at Geno Smith's passing DVOA, he fell to 22nd in the league last year. However, his accuracy, you know, remained at a pretty high rate, and the completion percentage over expected was on par with this 2022 season, which is the season that he kind of broke out yet again later, you know, as far as late in his career, because he's going to be, 34, 35 this year. And his deep ball passing DVOA was actually ranked 8th. So Raiders fans, don't know how he's really going to pan out this year for you guys, but one thing I can say is a big part of why his numbers were the way that they were, despite what everybody wants to say about the receivers there. Jackson Smith and Jigba had a breakout year. He caught over 100 passes, over 1,100 yards, 6 touchdowns, led the team in receiving and yards per catch, or yards after catch for 477. Look, when you really look at JSN, I think he's going to have another incredible year this year. He's really going to be the focal point of that on that offense. Getting rid of Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf tells us this, right? And so JSN was the best slot receiver last year. And I'm not just talking about just catching drags over the middle of the field. Like, this guy was catching stuff downfield and taking it to the house. Kenneth Walker led the team with 573 yards. Zach Charbonnet was second there with 569. So very, very comparable to each other. And they're only, they're 24 or under right now as far as their age. So it's a very, very young running back core. And you add Damian Martinez onto that. If you guys didn't check out the video I did on him, on why I think he could be the next Marshawn Lynch, make sure you guys go ahead and check that out. But the offensive line, the talent that they have with Charles Cross, hopefully he takes another step up. They drafted Gray Zabel, so you're going to have 2 offensive linemen that are under the age of 25 that obviously they had a very, very, very mediocre to really bad year. They're going to have they had a really bad year as far as their offensive line was concerned. When we talk about their defense, allowed 17.5 points per game in the second half of their season. That tied with the third fewest. So a little thing that they can build upon. And the way that they drafted said that we're going to continue to do that. They allowed 304 total yards per game in the second half of the season, which is the 4th fewest, which kind of seems crazy, but that's just how it was. Their defensive front, the Seahawks rank 8th in pressure rate and recorded 45 sacks. Look, Leonard Williams was really, really good last year when people think his career was doing this. It really made a turn back up, and he's really showing his talent yet again. He led the team with 11 sacks. Do we need to talk about Devon Witherspoon and how good that he is? Recorded 177 tackles, 4 sacks, 25 passes defended in the first 2 seasons. Yeah, he's very, very good. Jason Myers doesn't get the love that he deserves either. Made 26 of 30 of his field goal attempts. They kicked more field goals than any other team in the league due to their red zone struggles, right? And so that's one thing that they wanted to address, obviously, this season. And how they do that, they go and draft Elijah Arroyo. I see my man Torque already mentioned that. Look out for Arroyo this season. One of our favorite, when Torque was with us, when we were watching college football last year coming out of Miami, Elijah Arroyo was a big, huge factor on why a guy like Cam Ward had the year that he had, right? And so with that being said, talk about red zone, you get him. Talk about red zone again, Damian Martinez, you draft him to help out with the special teams as far as trying to score there. Torrey Horton comes in from Colorado State, who was an amazing receiver for them, but right now they're trying him at the special teams. And then on the defensive side, they just want to continue to anchor off of that, right? Going to go get Nick Emanwori. A lot of people had him at number 1. A lot of people had him at number 2. Look, there was no other podcast that was not South Carolina fans that watched more South Carolina than us. Loved all those guys, and Nick Emanwori was one of the reasons why we were hoping and praying that he didn't go to the Ravens. They ended up getting Malachi Starks, which that's going to be crazy. And so they get Nick Emanwori to build on that. Maybe the next Cam Chancellor is what a lot of people are saying. But one thing that I did want to call out, getting Cooper Kupp, he's going back to Washington. He graduated, or he played at Washington State in his college days. So, not Washington State, Eastern Washington in his college days. Obviously, we talked about JSN, but one dude that everybody's doubting on this roster that we've been really big fans of here for years is Jake Bobo. I think Jake Bobo is going to be one of the league's best top 30 receivers this year. You can bank on that. Despite what their record says, I think that this team overall is going to find their identity this year. And in 2026, just how I feel like about a bunch of these teams, 2026, they're going to have an even bigger year than what they had this year. So that's how I feel about the Seahawks. Let's get over to the comments real quick. I feel like I missed a couple. Seattle feels like a 9-8, 8-9 team because I don't trust Sam. Their weapons on offense besides Njigba. Brother, you need to watch more Jake Bobo. San Francisco at the bottom going 7-10 because I feel the concept of an easy schedule is just BS and doesn't matter coming Sunday. I don't do the schedule predictions or strength of schedule because nobody really knows. So that's why we never make videos on that stuff. I really don't. Nobody really knows. I'm basing this off of, the whole team, the coaching, all that stuff. We talked about this at the beginning. You guys are talking about the Raiders there. Gray Zabel is going to be an anchor pretty early for Seattle. Yeah. So we'll see what happens there.